If you crack first, Dave, it won't make you any less of a man.
I'm nowhere near cracking.
Neither am I, my friend.
Dave. And Matthew, what is it now? For God's sake, no one's smoking, okay?
But nothing!
You know what we need around here is an anti-whining ordinance.
So just sip your sniveling little lip and haul your skinny ass out of here!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. It's time for some more comic industry news. Got a lot of indie stuff to talk about here at the end of the week. To put a bow on it, just wrap up some of the news that has dropped up. We do have some DC news as well. First up, we're going to cover the big teaser images from Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. A lot of people thought maybe it had to do with an upcoming Marvel project. That is not the case. I'll have the details here shortly. After that, we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead, or at least a spinoff of The Walking Dead. We know Robert Kirkman's Skybound X anthology series is going to be coming up, highlighting a lot of the big projects that he does over at Skybound. One of those is a Clementine story. Clementine obviously spins out of I believe they're the video games, and we've got some news on Clementine. So The Walking Dead isn't quite dead yet. We are not getting the official Walking Dead, but we are getting some spinoffs. After that, we've got a new writer on Red Sonja. It's a pretty big name. Fits the brand like a T, just a perfect match for that character. And finally, we have some news on Batman, Catwoman. If you're a fan of the series, I have some bad news for you. There are going to be some delays. We got all the details about that. First up, we've got to get into Kids Love Chains Press. Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman begin dropping teaser images. As I mentioned, some thought it was like an old Marvel team logo. Turns out that was not the case. It's actually their own imprint. For what publisher? We do not know yet. Interesting that Marvel would let Cates and Stegman like they didn't have exclusive, but I'm surprised they didn't back the Brinks truck up with the comic sales that these two have done together on Venom, Absolute Carnage, King in Black. But they're going to be working together. I'm not surprised. A lot of times when you have a really good writer and an artist and their styles just match so perfectly, they're not going to let each other go. Certainly, we saw a nice long run with Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Think of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, other kind of creative pairings like that. And they are taking their business elsewhere. A lot of people also thought this might have been part of the Spawn universe, but that was not correct. It is going to be this Kids Love Chains imprint under an unknown publisher at this time. But they did give us some information on the first series, or at least what this series is going to be. The title of the series is going to be Vanish. They said that was done for a reason. They want, when people go to their comic shops and they look at the V section for their Venom comic, they want to see Vanish right next to it because the art is just going to capture the eye and get people buying this series. We got some teaser images. The first one was a main character covered in blood with like red power shooting out of his eyes. He also has a cloak that's being held up with a brooch that had the teaser logo that they are initially placing out there. So that has something to do possibly with this team. We also got another teaser image of a 5-person hero team, and there's definitely an evil entity sitting behind them on a wire. They did mention on a podcast that is likely the villain. That is not part of the hero team. Some have speculated that the hero on the left, in this image right here, has an upside-down Image Comics logo. I don't buy that. I think that circle is just part of his belt, and the upper part of that is just part of his costume. I could be wrong. Maybe it is an upside-down Image logo, but I think people were maybe looking a little bit too hard into that. There's also additional cover art by Scotty Young and Daniel Warren Johnson. So they have brought out the big guns, some very well-known comic book artists, cover artists. And it is not a baby comic book cover from Scotty Young. It's actually just the main character. This should do very well. We know that sales have been rising, especially on debuts of hot titles by very hot comic book creators on the indie market. We've seen what James Tynion has been able to do. We've seen what Al Ewing's been able to do. We see what Scott Snyder's been able to do. Just look what Todd McFarlane was able to do with his Spawn universe that came out this week. Indie comics are very hot. If you can get a really good creator, this one doesn't have one good creator. It's got two. We got Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman, one of the best creative pairings in comic books today. I think this thing will do very well, and whoever they publish this under is going to be very happy they got a hold of them. This is what Stegman had to say. It was very short. This is Donny's in mind. We own this. So it's creator-owned work. Then Donny Cates added, this is all our 90s crazy shit with a little hint of salt of My Chemical Romance emo nonsense. Whatever. If it's Donny Cates and it's Ryan Stegman, I'm a customer. So I'm very happy about this. Like to see that they're spreading their wings, doing some creator-owned stuff. Not that Donny Cates hasn't done a lot of creator-owned stuff and isn't continuing to. So I think these guys are going to do dynamite on the open market. They don't need Marvel at this point to sell comic books. If they look dope and the story is cool, which Stegman's going to deliver the visuals, and Donny, for the most part, delivers on the storytelling, this is going to do very well. So that's exciting news. Where will the kids love Chains Press imprint land? I would think Image Comics is the one that jumps to mind, but Boom's doing a lot of really good stuff lately, and maybe they want to go a little bit more underground, get a little more indie feel to it. We shall see. A lot of people were very disappointed when The Walking Dead abruptly ended. Robert Kirkman pulled the rug out from under his fan base when they had solicited future issues of The Walking Dead, and then they canceled it. Didn't even let anybody know that it was coming. We knew that they were going to be continuing some Walking Dead in the Skybound X anthology, specifically Clementine and the Rick Grimes 2000 stories, I believe they are. The Clementine story in Skybound X is not the only time you're going to see that character. Skybound Comet is a new imprint specializing in original graphic novels for the YA and middle school audience. It's going to be launching in July 2022 with a YA graphic novel starring Clementine from the Walking Dead Telltale games. It's going to be a trilogy, and it's going to be written and illustrated by Tilly Walden. Not a name that a lot of comic book readers are going to know, but I believe she is from that YA graphic novel genre, and she'll be writing and illustrating this. The character will be introduced in Skybound X #1. In September 2022, we will also get another series called Everyday Hero Machine Boy by Tree Vong and Irma. I'm not even going to try to say that last name. We'll just call that person Irma. And then October 2022, Marguerite Scott. People will probably know that name from comic books. And Pablo Tunica will also be doing another trilogy of their own called Sea Serpent's Air Book 1. Machine Boy and Ayla, the hero from Sea Serpent's Air, will also make their debuts in Skybound X #2 and Skybound X #4. So they got big plans at Skybound Comics to enter the YA graphic novel, sector. Not surprised with that. Robert Kirkman is one of the better executives in comics. He's one of the bigger thinkers. He's one of the few people in the industry willing to take chances. I like that about him. He's got some moxie, and he is entering into the YA graphic novel audience with a brand name attached. He's coming with a character introduced in a video game attached to The Walking Dead. Will this do great? I have no idea. With Robert Kirkman behind it, I imagine he will have some say in the story and help to oversee it. I imagine it will be a very big success. The man, a lot of the things Robert Kirkman touches turn to gold. And Skybound is definitely one of the better imprints that you're going to find in any comics. So if you're excited for more The Walking Dead, you're going to have to go into the YA graphic novel section in July 2022 and find your copy of Clementine, the first of a trilogy. Speaking of things that I think are going to work just fine, Red Sonja, one of the bigger, I guess it's the second flagship for Dynamite. Obviously, #1 is Vampirella. Red Sonja is probably #2. We have got a new creator coming on board, and I can't imagine anyone fitting this brand more like a glove than Mirka Andolfo. So it's going to be Mirka Andolfo's Red Sonja. You probably know her from Mercy and Unnatural. Unnatural was really the series that put her on the map, was a really big indie, kind of underground hit for Image Comics. I believe it was originally published in Europe, and then Image bought the rights to publish it. Or maybe she just worked out a deal. But Image ended up publishing it in America, and her star has been rising ever since. She's done a lot of work as an artist. A lot of people will probably know her as the original artist from the Punchline one-shot and the Punchline backup stories in the Joker series. She's also done some other independent work, and it is going to be launching in September. It's also going to be written by Mirka Andolfo herself and Luca Blingino, and illustrated not by Andolfo, but her longtime colleague Giuseppe Caffaro, who has done work on The Sacred Six. I believe that's with Christopher Priest. And she is going to be leading a group of cover artists that include Jay Ancoletto, Joseph Michael Lisner, Erica D'Urso, and Brett Booth. Brett Booth is getting so much work on covers, he deserves it. And I'm glad he's getting all that interior work with Todd McFarlane's Spawn stuff. Hey, Mirka Andolfo would be a wonderful artist on this series as well. Hopefully maybe she'll do a couple issues here or there when she has time. Obviously, she is a name that is on the rise, and she's getting a lot of work. But she's getting a lot of writer work as well. A lot of her stories have to do with very strong female heroes. So I can't imagine a better writer for Red Sonja. I believe the last writer on this was Mark Russell, and he got upset with Dynamite because they were working with some people he didn't like. So this is the writer that's going to be replacing him. If you're a Red Sonja fan, you're going to be happy. And I believe Mirka Andolfo probably has enough of an audience at this point, enough of a fan base that she'll be bringing in more people as well. So I think Nick Barucci and company are going to be very happy that they've decided to go into the Mirka Andolfo business with the new Red Sonja series. Finally, this is the Batman Catwoman update. I do want to say this up front. There is a delay with the Batman Catwoman special number 1. It was supposed to come out in July. It's been delayed into December. The artist that was originally solicited for that was John Paul Leone. Unfortunately, he just passed away recently. I believe after over a decades-long struggle with cancer at far too young an age. So not surprising that comic book itself was delayed. Thoughts and prayers go out to the Leon family. I understand he had a teenage daughter as well and a wife that he leaves behind. So understandable that comic book will be delayed. I know that the word was that he had started on the art. I don't know what they're going to do with that, if that will be included in the issue or if they're going to redo it with the new artist. There are no details like that quite yet. But that's not the only delay about Batman and Catwoman. Issue number 5 that was sold on June 1st and had that enormous cliffhanger. Everybody was expecting the next issue, I believe, next week or the week after that. But that is being delayed until August 17th for issue number 6. So if you're a big Batman Catwoman fan, you're going to have to wait a couple more months for the next issue. Interestingly enough, August 17th was the original release date for Batman Catwoman number 7. Obviously, that one's going to get delayed as well. There will be a domino effect. Another interesting factor in this, and possibly reason for these delays, other than the Batman Catwoman special, obviously they had to change the artist because of the tragedy. Sometimes Clayman, the artist on Batman Catwoman with Tom King, the writer, isn't, sometimes he does have delays. But Jamie Rich was the Batman group editor under Tom King, and he's also the editor behind all of Tom King's Black Label work, including Batman Catwoman, Rorschach, and Strange Adventures. He has left the company and he's been named the EIC of Tapas Media. Perhaps him leaving was another reason they needed to regroup and push back the release date. We're not really sure. Obviously, Batman Catwoman was essentially supposed to be the end of Tom King's Batman run, which was prematurely ended at issue number 85. It was scheduled to go out to, I believe, issue 110 or 114. I can't remember exactly which one. They gave him this 12-issue miniseries to kind of wrap up what he wanted to tell. Obviously, Batman has kind of passed Tom King by. That's the James Tynion show at this point. I don't imagine these delays are really going to ruffle any feathers or anything. James Tynion Batman has nothing to do with anything that Tom King really was working on anymore, other than like the death of Alfred. Other than that, not much of what he was doing has anything to do with what Batman's doing right now. So once again, thoughts and prayers go out to the Leon family for his untimely passing after his struggle with cancer. It was very, very sad to hear. Great artists, and you hate to hear about anything like that happening. So on that sad note, let's wrap up the comic book news. We finally do have at least the preliminary information regarding Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates' next gig. It's called Kids Loves Chains Press. It's going to be a creator-owned work. Under what publisher, we're not really sure. The first series, or the series that they've been showing the promo art, is for a series called Vanish. They've got some really good artists to do variant covers. Walking Dead spinoff Clementine is getting her own YA graphic novel coming out of Skybound Comet when it debuts in July 2022. It's going to be all about YA graphic novels and middle school graphic novels. There's 3 of them that are supposed to launch in 2022. And so if you're a fan of The Walking Dead and you can't get enough, Clementine, the graphic novel, will be coming out next year. We also have a new writer on Dynamite's Red Sonja series. It's called Mirka Andolfo's Red Sonja. I don't think you could have picked a better creator to relaunch the brand with. I think that Nick Barucci and Dynamite made a very good hire here. And finally, as I just talked about, there were delays on the Batman Catwoman series, not only on the Batman Catwoman special, but also the mainline series is being delayed. We do know that the primary artist on Batman Catwoman special has passed away, unfortunately. And also the primary editor of all the Tom King work on Black Label has left the company to go work at Tapas. Perhaps that is another reason that there were delays on the main series as well. Thank you all very much. And later tonight, you're going to see my Spawn Universe review is finally going to get up. I finally got to it. I'm sorry. And definitely don't forget to join us for the Comics Aficionados tomorrow. We got a lot of stuff to talk about live on the channel at 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.